Okay, well, for this one, I'm going to keep my camera off because I am topless. As much fun as that might be for some of you, I don't think that you deserve it, to be quite frank. Do that one. No, that was the wrong one. That's one I had opened way back. Yeah, we'll just look at this. Me and Blair. Who wore it better, bitches? Just to be honest, like, she's hot as fuck. I am not as hot as she is. I would freely admit that. That's like, stating the obvious, huh? Although I think if you like tall Nordic women, I'm pretty hot. So why am I calling this Rachel's art class? Well, it's because I realized that basically what I'm doing is teaching an art class for gun people. Because like a lot of what I do that makes my shit more interesting in my mind comes from either a well versed view of history. So like my black powder revolver, there's things about it that are very modern, and there are things about it that are still done the right way that they were done in the 1850s because, like, that's the right way. Like, if you put that gun in the hand of fucking, what's his name? Wild Bill Hickok, he'd probably like it. We have another viewer. Hello there. Uh, I'm talking about art class. So, between painting and grinding and everything else that is that we do here, it's kind of like making art. I don't mean the trans shit. I mean like the find it eventually. Like this shit. This is the kind of like art class I would like to have, where like there's this whole community of like dudes out there that like this kind of stuff. That well, you know, they didn't grow up with a mom that was like an art teacher basically. Like my mom was weird. She was never an artist or an art teacher really, but yet we did like arts and craft shows a lot to make money. Like we would sell things that she made, that kind of stuff. Like little hippy dippy stuff. We did art fairs. I've been to more hippie fairs and art fairs than you care to count, and I was always like the weirdo giant in overalls walking around at those places. I would fit in there now. Like before, it was like I didn't make sense to those people. Anyway, uh, I would like to do more videos of like how tos and stuff. Like that'd be cool. This video is just kind of talking about shit in general and seeing who shows up and smoking. I got two people watching. I want to buy more open L's than I can afford. I can afford to buy like two or three every few weeks, and I would like to buy like 5 or 10 a week or 20 a week. Something like if I would do as many as I had. I very much enjoy doing these, and I think I'm pretty good at them. I just don't know if anyone really like thinks this shit's cool enough to pay anything for it. Really, I was kind of thinking about doing them like 45, $50 ish each, something like that, so that like there's enough of a motive to do it, and that covers some shipping and whatever else too. But like, you still get to make some money. Oh, not much. I did a bunch of videos earlier, fucking around in my backyard, and I was doing it with my lights on my helmet and stuff to show stuff off, and I was running around without the lights on too, and at the end of it, I realized I still had my sunglasses on because I never stopped to take them off. It's one of those like, oops, I feel stupid. But at the same time, it's kind of impressive. Like I much prefer to wear my sunglasses most of the time. Light hurts my eyes. Like I am a weirdo. I know that. Like if there's anything like a vampire, I think I'm kind of one of them. Like makes me wonder about all like Honda's theories about the lizard people and shit like that. Like what if like gingers and red-haired people and green-eyed people and blue-eyed people, what if those are all like really like 1% lizard person DNA and I don't know that I'm part lizard person? I think I'm gonna take one of the bigger ones of these, and I'm gonna take a Dremel tool to it and really carve some deep shit in it. And I'm gonna get crazy with it. I'm gonna buy a number 10 and just kind of go for it and see how it turns out. I have a plan for how I'm gonna do that because like I'm gonna wait to torch these till the end now. After trying the carving one on the one in the picture there, fuck, you don't want to have to torch it once it's got beeswax on it. It works. It works okay, and it doesn't hurt the beeswax because beeswax can get hot. It just it makes the wood weird, and I had to fight it. And if you want to have a successful carving job with flame and shit, do all your carving first, then torch it. Thank me later. And honestly, the best one I think is the one I did cold blue on the blade afterward. That thing looks sharp. I might make them all that way. I'm debating bluing the knife that's in that picture with it, but I kind of want some of them to look different. And like I'm showing off skill, I guess, like at how different I can make these look. So we'll see on like the next batch how different they look. Because if we return back over here, uh, let's just go here. It's easier to find my fucking pictures and shit. Like going to the other page. So like this one, I don't think really looks like either one of those. It looks more like the carved one. These just look good. This is also like the channel, besides like knife art class, this is the amazing world of what you can do with spray paint, paracord, and duct tape. You can get pretty fucking creative, really. My helmet, I added a thing to tie on camouflage made of paracord. I'll do a video on that soon. I basically just went in and out all the holes on top with some paracord and then tied on some lashing material on it. Strands of paracord that you can tie on other shit with. And like that doesn't seem important or whatever, but like I was watching videos on helmet scrim and it's a thing. You do need it. And like this is like the most budget ass bitch version I can come up with. And that's kind of this whole channel is not like, man, this is the best thing you should do. No, this is what Rachel is doing to give those of you with no money ideas on shit that you can do. Because, like, it's easy to answer gear questions with just buy more fucking shit. Like, that's kind of my whole thing with this channel is there are some things you should definitely spend money on. And, like, I'm going to do videos on that eventually. And, like, one of those things is a chest rig. And I think I'm going to buy a second chest rig eventually. I don't want to do that, but things are bad enough to where I want to have multiple rigs for different rifles and shit. and just sets of equipment to hand off to capable friends. Because, like, at the moment, I have enough arms and equipment for probably 3 or 4 people if, like, the shit ended or whatever. Because, like, you can't shoot more than 1 or 2 guns at a time, really. Like, a handgun on your side and a rifle in your arms is about the most you're ever going to carry, right? So, beyond that, if you're going to have more guns, it doesn't do you any good to have more guns unless you have the other associated equipment, in my mind. Now, for some guns, if it's like an M4 with a red dot, associated equipment could be a bandolier and mags. But, like, I like a little bit more shit than that because I know how to use all this shit. And, like, this is half of the thing is my gear I made for me to use. I know how to use every bit of it. This is what I would encourage you to be. Like, don't base your shit entirely off of military shit. My shit is whatever I fucking find that's effective. Like, I take shit from the hiking world and camping world as much as I do the military and whatever. Like, the black powder revolver shit, I had to really go to weird places to find that crap. And my thought on the black powder revolver is basically, okay, let's say the Chinese or somebody does take over. What happens in 20, 30 years when you still can't get fucking ammo, but, like, now there's this bitch that needs killing? That's why the black powder revolver is set up for business. You know, like, it's a prep. That it seems like an odd prep to some people, but that is, I want to have a gun functional no matter what. I can make pretty much everything that I would need to keep that running, even fucking caps are something that you can technically make. I looked into that a little bit, and it's interesting. Making powder is way more my speed, so I'm just gonna go buy a bunch of caps. But my thing is with that too, like, once you get through all of the regular ammo you have, how much shit are you gonna have stored for your black powder revolver? Well, right now I've got 2 pounds of powder and, like, enough shit for 200 shots. That's a lot. It's a lot of powder, especially compared to the bullets and shit. It's more powder than anything else. I need more caps, but, like, that's, how many bitches are you gonna need to shoot once you completely run out of ammo? It's a weird prep, I'll give you. My other thing is, like, I like going out in the woods and shit, and eventually I can foresee a time and place where, like, I'm going to be carrying a black powder revolver in the woods, either because there is no ammunition for anything else, and or um, it's the only thing left that you could have legally, and, like, for whatever reason we're still following the laws. I prep for many contingencies because I don't know exactly where the future's headed, right? And, like, I like cowboy guns, so the black powder revolver it's a toy that I already wanted. That's kind of how I viewed a lot of my preps. Like, I bought a scooter. It's a kick scooter that's made of aircraft grade aluminum. It's called a Zooter. You go watch Nothing Fancy's videos, you can find it. It's a ridiculous thing. It's stupid. The reason I bought that thing is because it was 300 bucks. I can carry it, and it makes me way, way faster and can go way, way farther. And, like, as a backup thing to throw in the back of the van, I I think it has value, right? It's not, oh, this is the best vehicle in the world. It's under extreme limitations. It's pretty cool. And I like Razor scooters to begin with, so sorry. I'm kind of smoking weed while we're talking. There's a bunch of that kind of shit that, like, I have in my preps that I guess most people wouldn't have. Like, I'm sitting here looking at my preps right now, and I've got, like, a bag of tools for the car that I keep in my living room floor that I just keep throwing shit in. It's got, like, rope and an axe and paracord and a hammer and a shovel and tape and screwdrivers and wrenches. It has all sorts of shit in it. That's kind of how I am right now. Is like I'm trying to like think of everything that I'm gonna need for forever and kind of build out a big kit. And some of that is like, well, I need a rifle that does X, Y, and Z. And what do we have right now? We don't have anything that kind of remotely does that. Okay, well, we need rifle parts then. And it doesn't seem like that's a prep for everything else, but like when rifle parts protect the rest of everything, like rifle parts come at a pretty fucking high priority. I also really want a Geisley bayonet lug. I I have no legitimate reason for it other than my other gun can take a bayonet, and I already have the bayonet. So it seems logical to have both of my guns take bayonets, and that's what I'm going to go with. I think it's. I just like having a pig sticker on the end of my fucking gun, man. Like I don't care, especially if we are in unsupported guerrilla warfare in the middle of the fucking Oklahoma bush or some fucking Canyonland, Utah, wherever the fuck it is. I could foresee a bayonet being a thing you might need. And that Geisley mount is expensive, hard to get, and something that they will not probably make a ton of. They're probably not going to make it forever unless it gets a military contract or something. Like the Marine Corps probably is going to adopt that thing. Because, like, the reason I have bayonets on my shit is the same reason Marines have bayonets on their shit. It's, talking to my grandfather, he related story after story after story after story of me upon which times that the Marine Corps survived on the fact that it had a bayonet, completely out of ammunition, no hope at all, yada yada yada. The bayonet is the Marines' primary weapon in some ways. Like people don't get that. So like in my mind, it's kind of like a little heads up to grandpa at the same time. Not to mention that the bayonet that I have on my shit is an M7, and as something to pull out in the middle of a scuffle, M7 bayonet will kill the fuck out of somebody. It's, we made this bayonet with all of the knowledge gained after World War II and all of the technology gained after World War II. So it's, an M3 trench knife that's lighter and better and has a bulletproof attachment method to your rifle. Like, I love the M7. It's a great bayonet. The one I have is made by Imperial. Cool part is this was my uncle's bayonet. He had this in his closet because he had a couple bayonets for some guns or whatever, but that's not really his thing. He's more of a hunter. He was going to sell it, and last Wanamaker, the Wanamaker before, I snagged it off him for $40, and I owe him like a dinner or something for this thing because like for $40, that's the price this thing was when he bought it. Being a pretty nice OG Vietnam Imperial in a nice scabbard, pretty much new old stock, but has seen a little bit of service. These things are starting to go for more and more money. I was looking at one of these on eBay. They were wanting like $200 for them. I'm like, I don't think so. Like a standard M7, like an Ontario new made one, those are cheaper. Ola Guns and Barbecue. But for whatever reason, like everything else, old school collector shit is always going to go up in value because it just gets rarer. So it's kind of like walking around with like a cavalry saber on your shit or something now. I have a collector weapon. I'm gonna buy another M7 though because I want to have one for each rifle, and I can get one of the new Ontario ones cheap enough. And when I do that, I might get a whole new rig and build a new rig to go with the new bayonet. I know that seems excessive or whatever, but my thought is again like basically the rifle is semi useless without this shit to go with it. I like it in X Men. I guess X-Men 2, and they go to Iceman's parents' house, and they see Wolverine in their kitchen. They're like, "What is it that you teach?" Art. You know, I wish my old high school would hire me as the art teacher. I highly doubt they would, but I would make a great one. The art teacher I had, her idea of teaching art, some of it was very good and necessary, and they should definitely keep that bitch, and she should teach an art class too. But it was like, okay, read this phone book and do a report on Rembrandt. See you next week. If the goal is to teach people to make and do art, you are you might as well be stapling their dick to a tree limb and just waiting for them to fall off. That's the thing I don't understand about art class. It's kind of like anything else. I don't like academia in general because it all proceeds from this point of view of like the English way of study has been this for eight, so therefore you must learn. Well, in reality, you should know who Rembrandt is. You should know his style. You should know his paintings. You probably don't need to read a phone book on him. At least not in your high school art class. I went to a weirdo high school. I'll give you that, but like it's just that's not even remotely teaching you anything valuable. It's art history. Art history is useful, but like it's a separate class than art class. Like art class is like shop class. It's about like making things and doing things. It's not about studying what other people did. Like this is half of what's wrong with our modern education system is there's no one left in America in the education system that values the art class or the shop class or even PE anymore or driver's ed or any of the things. They don't even value history really because that's where the football coach teaches, like in most of Oklahoma. So basically, everything that I love, they don't even really teach because it's not important. At least that's how I feel. And, you know, I reject their society and replace it with my own. Maybe I just watch too much Adam Savage or whatever. I reject your reality and replace it with my own. I love that dude. Like, I watched so much of his podcast. If you've never watched Tested's podcast, anything where it's Adam Savage talking about his tools, or it's his untitled podcast, or it's a one day builder project with him, you should just go watch that shit. I would pay money to watch those videos. And he puts them up for free. It's, you need to like pay attention to detail and watch what he's doing and see how that could affect what you do. That's how you should be watching everything on that channel. Is like, okay, he's doing that on a piece of aluminum. Could I do that in some way on a gun? And like, or whatever it is that you do, like, or knives or whatever. The stuff that I took away from Adam Savage was all about shop organization and sanding. Like, honestly, it's one of the best channels I've ever fucking watched for learning how to make knives. And he barely talks about that shit at all. But the thing that I think is funny is Adam Savage found knife makers. And he did the same thing I did because like it it's one of those like if you see that oh this has applicable stuff to what I'm doing but these people don't do what I do at all, it becomes even more fascinating because it's a view completely outside of it. So like a model maker, that's what Adam Savage is. He's a model maker, prop maker, special effects artist. That and make a combat knife seem like very different things, but really they're not. You're trying to make an actual thing at the end. There's different rules for it. Like with the combat knife, it needs to be hardened steel and it needs to be lethal and yada yada yada. There's a list of requirements, whereas his is more looks. But all of his looks shit is 90% of knife making. It's all about how shit looks once it's done. It's a little sanding, a little cleaning, a little, this and that, and details. Details matter, and like that's a model maker. That's what he can teach you really is how to be detail oriented in what you're making, along with about a billion other things. There's not too many people in the gun community that are also in like the maker community, from what I've seen. And when they are, they're usually like 3D printers. That's cute. I don't have anything against 3D printing. I think it's an interesting thing. It's not my thing. I'm my own 3D printer. You know, when I say that, I mean like most of the knives I ever made, I didn't even have a grinding jig, which is the thing that helps you hold it still or whatever. I just held it to a fucking band and just did it. Did it freehand. So like we're in different worlds. Like I appreciate the fuck ups, and you get interesting fuck ups when you do stuff by hand. Now, learning how to mix cool shit that can fix your fuck ups in 5 seconds, that's useful to know, right? But like 3D printing doesn't have many things that like could apply to that. I would like a CNC machine, but like in reality, I'd rather have a manual mill, but that's even more money. Because like the Ghost Gunner thing is like cheap as fuck compared to a manual mill. Every year at Wanamaker, there's a guy there somewhere on the north end selling manual mills. That's what they do is they go find old ones, they restore them, they sell them. And the most of the people that are interested in them are knife makers and gunsmiths and people like Adam Savage, which is yet again like weird crossing of worlds. Where does manual machining have a, place still? When you're doing one or you're doing a handful of them for a thing, like it's not worth it to write the program, especially not if you can mill. And it's a thing that like there's enough of us that are like weirdos that will go fuck around in the garage until we can do it right. That once you have that skill, why bother having the computer and shit? My thing was never milling. Again, I never had a mill to play with. My thing was always grinding and cutting. Uh, I'm an artist with anything that grinds, pretty much. And that's sheer repetition, really. I was horrible when I first started doing anything. That's kind of my message, I think, on a lot of this like making stuff message that I have occasionally, and intermixed with all the trans shit and the freedom shit and the gun shit is making stuff is fun. And like if you do something like make a, if you do something like modify a gun, that's a risky thing. Maybe work your way up to that. But like modifying an open L like this is an entry level project. This is a perfect thing just to like wet your feet and see if you like doing this kind of stuff. The files that I used to carve that one, I bought those at Harbor Freight for $3. Most of you probably have a blowtorch. If not, those are cheap. Beeswax, I got a brick of it for $5 on eBay. So once you have that shit, you could do as many of these as you want, and they're like $10 to $20 depending on the model of open L you get. The other thing that I like that's really cheap art wise lately is painting guns. Most of you have a bunch of guns, and in reality, spray paint versus Cerakote versus what it doesn't matter. It all flakes off eventually. Some of it'll stick better than others. You can clean. It is rewarding. Uh, you can clean off the whole surface or whatever with acetone, make it stick better in some places, but like ish. Honestly, I've never acetoned a single gun that I've ever painted. I did that mainly because I wanted to see how it would affect the paint jobs, and I was wanting stuff to look kind of worn off. And it doesn't wear off like crazy. It wears off in all the spots you would want it to. So if you're doing battle worn finishes, especially, why waste the acetone? And like it to me on guns with spray paint, the art is in the battle worn finish. I don't want it to look like, oh man, this came off of the Fallujah streets or whatever. Like I think about it like Boba Fett. Like I just want my gun to look like, you know, like it's Boba Fett a little bit. Like it's been through some shit, it's seen some shit or whatever. And spray painting it and carrying it around a little bit does that. It gives it a very cool look. It's like a prop or something out of a video game. And you can put spray paint on a plate and take brushes. I get 10 packs of brushes for $3 on Amazon. And I just use a brush, and when I'm done, I chuck it because the spray paint is hard to clean off. Since times have been tough lately, I've been cleaning my fucking brushes, and that's doable. But it's the brushes are cheap. Just get a few dozen of them and fucking chuck them when you're done. It's not like you're an artist painting every day or whatever. It's like you're gonna like paint your name on the stock of a gun or something. Or like look at the stuff I did with mine. I have Wolverines on one side. I have Mandalorian shit all over the stock. Like you can do whatever you want. And it's not going to help resale value of that gun, but it's mine now, and I think it's cool. Like I appreciate it, and like if you do things to your taste, I think you would do it too. Like you would appreciate it too. I mean, when I started out doing this, I started kind of slow, right? Like you don't jump into painting a whole fucking rifle or whatever. Like I started out with, okay, well let's just like try painting an upper, lower, and a rail, see what happens to it, see where that goes. And from there I started adding like some Boba Fett decals and trying patterns, doing camo patterns and whatever. And like this thing that I'm working on now, this like Space Marine blaster, I have tried various little tricks on the last several guns that I've had, and I'm just kind of throwing them all together on one thing just to make it fucking insane. I kind of think like I was watching Tim Dillon and Joe Rogan talk about the end of the world, and Tim Dillon says it's going to be like the funniest end of the world ever. That's pretty much me in a nutshell. Like if we're gonna go out, I'm gonna go out with my boots on. And my boots are stripper heels that are fucking green and black tiger stripe. I can't wait to get the Geisley bayonet lug for this thing. Wish I could just make one of those. Honestly, I think Geisley charges too much for that thing. I'm sure that they really did some engineering to like figure out how to put a Staneg mount on the end of a fucking rail. That's the other thing that gets to me is like, ow, the way that corporate America does things. They're idiots. They don't understand that they should have somebody like me coming up with their ideas and forcing their engineers to bend to their will. That's how you get decent products. If you just let engineers go crazy, you're going to end up with shit more than likely. And that's, there's a lot of cases to be made for that. But like they need a voice of reason that is, yo, fuckers, this is what we were originally trying to do. Like I've been around a lot of engineers. I used to do robotics. And I even did robotics competitions at one point in my life. And yeah, I was the retard who barely got on the robotics team, and I was with a bunch of people that fucking went to Stanford and MIT and Harvard and shit after that. And there was a game that we had to play with the robot, and their issue was they were really good at figuring out the math on how to build the robot. and I was there because I was really good at grinding shit, and I told them how to build their robot so that it would win the game. But because they felt that it was not within the spirit of the rules, they didn't do that, basically, and they just thought I was stupid. The robot that won the whole thing was my design, which was you make it as small as possible, and you make it to where it can barely even make the rules of the game happen, and then you just go around the track in circles because they give you in the game it was you had to put a ball up on a fucking track thing, and they gave you 3 points for putting the ball up there, and it took forever if you could even get one up there. Meanwhile, they gave you like 1 point for going a lap around a very short track. So, like, engineers look at this and design a forklift. I looked at it and designed a race car. And this is the difference. Like, no one respects this that I'm talking about here. This I know how to play the game. Would you just sit down, shut up, and listen? It's I don't know what that is. Like my grandfather and mom have it too. We're pretty damn smart cookies. Believe it or not. My grandfather was like a fall down alcoholic, and my mom is like a workaholic, but like, and then there's me. We won't get into me. I have my own issues. I am a weedaholic currently, but like, of the vices that I've had in my life, weed and casual sex are not that bad. So Zeus, do you do metal fab? I want to get some like cut off M60 barrels and weld them onto the bumper of Ghost Rider. I want to get all the other fucking shit to go on there first because I want to know what room I have to fucking just weld on M60 barrels. But I think that would be a funny thing, especially if I have them kind of coming out from under it so it looks like it really has M60s in it. Get like 4 of those. So that's what I think my van is pretty cool. It's like it's kind of like anything else with me is I like customized shit. So really the nice car that I had before, I didn't like that much. I didn't like it that much because I couldn't do anything to it because it would affect the value. And I was worried about that. And that's a me thing. I thought seriously about ripping the entire fucking passenger seat and back end and suicide seats, not suicide seats, what are those called? The jump seats in the back. What about pulling all of that out and building it into a camper? Mechanic, welder, fabrication, build fence, build anything else. See, I never got into welding. I have had a stick welder, and I'm pretty clever, and I've seen stick welding done. I could figure that out in about 20 minutes, probably. I don't know how good I would be. That would be like the art of it, right? But everything else I've ever done, like my main theory with welding is I'm one of the world's best grinders. So it doesn't matter how good of a welder I am, I'll just keep throwing bead at it until it gets stuck together and then grind off whatever doesn't look pretty. And my guess is that it's kind of like that would get it done. It's probably not the best idea, but it's better than it not being welded. My favorite thing to do is forging. I want to go forge something. We should do that eventually. I haven't been wanting to waste the propane, and it's been fucking hot as balls. There's no reason to forge at all, really, during July. Ninja stars are cool. I made Never Enough Ammo has a batarang on his safe that I made him that's like the one in Dark Knight Returns. I made it with a Dremel tool and a bandsaw and a couple of grinders, and like I had a full kind of knife making shop, but it was basically just kind of cut out and then ground. The ears I had to pull out the Dremel tool to do. Little fucking bat ears were too hard to do with my shit. It's too big. I just ended up spending probably $20 worth of Dremel bits just to make Matt's little fucking ninja star. Anyway, I'm gonna make a dirk eventually out of some files I have. I have like a stack of files over here that I'm gonna turn into knives eventually, and I think I might do one of those before too long. I don't have any way to make a sheath, especially for something that big, though. I've sold my Kydex making shit because, like, I fucking hate using it and I hate Kydex sheaths. So I don't see any reason to keep it. And the guy that bought the grinder bought a whole bunch of other stuff while he was here that I was just like, yeah, I bought this, but I don't need this. Downsizing. It's one of those, like, at one point I was like, man, I'm just going to buy a bunch of shit in bulk because, like, I don't really know how long I'm going to be doing this. And it doesn't seem, you know, I kind of think a bit like my grandfather, and my grandfather was a hell of a prepper. So if you're in that mindset, money's worthless. Why not have all the sanding belts you'll ever need in your life? You know, uh, it's not the best way to be, but it does set yourself up for future success in a lot of ways. I really seriously thought about getting into like TIG welding. That's what you like, wire welding, like, or do you mean like a flux core or MIG kind of thing? I thought TIG would be fun because it has so much control over it, and I'm very like OCD and attention to detail. But at the same time, kind of like I like some like wabi sabi craziness to my shit, and that's like, you know, if it's not perfect, it's perfect. You know, its perfection comes from its imperfection. Like what's his name? Confucianist kind of thing. I'm not very Confucianist, but that's kind of where that comes from. The wabi sabi thing is from King of the Hill when Bobby goes into like growing roses. He's a rose competition grower and he's buying shit from Stems and Seeds, which is like a fucking grow weed inside your house store in Texas. It's a great episode. Well worth watching. King of the Hill in general is like my childhood. My grandfather was like, if you mixed Hank Hill and Cotton Hill, you would get my grandfather. Explains everything you need to know about me, really. It's a weird mix. That's how you get Ray Ray. Thing that I think is funny is that my the other weird mix in my life is that my grandfather literally was a Marine Corps officer and my grandmother was literally a dancer. Like, you want to talk about like a fucking like stereotype or whatever. She was not an exotic dancer, but she was like a rockette dancer. Like, went to New York City, did the whole thing, taught tap dancing in Tulsa for years. Like, I I did a show in Tulsa every year. It was called, I'm not gonna say that. It's a charity show that my grandmother was heavily involved in. And what I did there was build sets. And I got to doing that because basically I got drugged to these practices and I didn't like singing and dancing and being on stage or any of that kind of shit. I was like the dark comedian sitting at the back of the room. So I hung out with the old men building sets just fine. Like, they were like, where'd this kid come from? He can hang. Cause like I've been growing up with my grandpa. Like, these were all like blue collar guys that were the husbands of the ladies putting on this show that got drugged there too. and they were drinking beer at the back and building shit. And God, that was some of the most fun I ever had. That's those guys were creative and makers and builders, and like they were the sort of people that you want in the end of the world. That like Zeus is saying, just learn many skills, they're all useful. That's kind of how I feel. That's in the knife making thing. You have to learn to do a little bit of everything, right? It's like if you add in Kydex, you even add in like how to do thermomolding plastics and how to work with plastics. There's metal, there's wood, there's, you know, forging, there's grinding, there's welding, there's, 1,000 different things that you can learn. And that's why, like, I think it's a good thing for everybody to pick something. Like, if you're a metal fabrication guy, then obviously you should probably pick something in the metal world, but like, pick something to make, whatever it is. Like, my great grandfather made clocks. Yeah, made wooden clock bodies, should I say? That like he'd buy an old clock that was in a shoebox. Basically, it was all just the mechanical parts of it. And he was a pattern maker for mold making. Uh, Back in the day, you would make a wooden pattern by hand, and then it would be used to make the mold. So in his spare time, he would do intricate carvings of clocks and shit. I've got one he did on the wall up behind me. I would turn my camera on, but yeah, I'm just not gonna do that right now. I'm topless. Leave me alone. The stuff that I've always tried to learn, in addition to knife making, is not really gunsmithing so much as like guerrilla gunsmithing. It's one of the books I have in my boxes of books to move or whatever is the book Guerrilla Gunsmithing, and that's a book that really I should write a better version of because I could. Like, there's a lot of cool fixes in there for different stuff that you can do with nothing, but it's all stuff from like 30, 40 years ago. Gosh, kind of a lot's happened since then. Guerrilla gunsmithing would include, okay, so you don't have a mill, you know, okay, so you don't have a mill to me is, well, here's your hand file, your power drill, your chisel, and like something else, like anything that will remove metal, and you just keep going at it. Like those dudes in Afghanistan that, you know, take a file and whittle you an AK receiver. When I was a kid, when I first started making knives, I wanted to make cross guards. And I have a couple of knives with cross guards that I made that are fitted in a garage by hand with nothing but a hand drill and some little round files and a triangular file. Like it can be done. Like that's the kind of shit that like useful to know how to do. It's maybe not something that you need to do every day, but especially working in aluminum or something like that. You could get real crazy. Like E Honda managed I can make his lower work, and I don't know what he did, but I'm gonna guess that he did kind of a thing like what I was saying with the hand drill, but worse. Like this was part of the thing that always cracked me up about being on that show was literally it was like having a bastard file as a must. Yes, it is. I've got like 3 or 4 of them, varying sizes. I have one that has a kind of handle built into it that has a rougher size on it that I like for a lot of things. I've got a 6-inch bastard file that I've sharpened the end of, and it's slanted at like a 30-degree angle or so, and it's sharpened. So that thing is like my companion in the shop because if I need to cut something, I use it. If I need to file something or take a fucking burr off of something, I use it. And then the tail on that file fits a couple of my machines to adjust things. So like it's like the multi-tool of the shop. And it's just some sharpened piece of metal. That's why, like, I love Rick and Morty because I feel a companionship to Rick in a way, because like that is a little bit of my grandfather, a little bit, because he was a drunk and fucking just did his own thing or whatever. But at the same time, like that, you walk into my garage and you find some random sharpened shard of metal that means nothing to you, so you throw it away. Oh no, that's not a big deal. That just controls my entire life. Okay, like you have no idea what you've done. You know, the people of Dralax 7 need that piece of metal, for all you know. Oh. In reality, I think the thing that like this I should start doing is like if I know a lot about it enough to do it, you know, well on camera and teach it, I should, and it was a Boy Scout merit badge, that's probably something we should just make a series on. Cuz like I was watching Red Dawn and the part where they're like your son is part of an elite paramilitary organization, Eagle Scout. Like that's not untrue. Like the things that they're teaching them are to make them score higher on an ass fab, really. Like there's badges in the scouts for metalworking and knife making and flint knapping and fucking all sorts of shit that you're like, why the fuck are we doing this? And it's because you're trying to craft a fucking army officer corps, and they're teaching them a bunch of random shit to have knowledge of it so that when they, see it later, they go, "Oh, I know all about this already." Which is a much better reaction to something like wilderness survival than, the bugs!" Tap and dice would be great. I never played with those because I never really found a need for it. If I had one, I would use it for everything. You know, holding on handles and shit like that. I kind of like the way I do handles though, where it's pinned together and it's all one solid thing. And like, if you drop the knife in a lake or something, you you should know that you just have to clean it up because them handles ain't coming off. Like, I don't think I could remove most of my handles without destroying the entire knife. Usually, that's one of the things. Like Becker's knives, I've always really liked that you can just remove the handles and shit. But honestly, I think the way that I do it is a little bit superior because the reason you can't take my shit off is because it's epoxied on there. There's no reason to clean underneath those scales. Trust me, there ain't nothing in between the steel and that thing. That's why it's not coming off. You know, uh, I learned to do that from Newt Livesey. He taught me when I was a kid that basically you don't even need pins. I used to hang out with Newt Livesey at gun shows because there wasn't that many people in Oklahoma gun shows that made custom knives that were at an affordable price and that were like combat knives and that kind of a thing. And like he is kind of like continue mission fuck the world knives to me. Like we met and we're kindred spirits. Like we're not making a knife that's like, you know, some fancy thing. We're making like a modern sword. It's a unique group of people. Well, yeah, that is fun. Last billiard ball I had was a white one that I took from the house in Springfield I lived at, and when Dakota and I were on drugs, we went bowling with it in the street out there, and I don't think we ever got it back. We wanted to see if we could get it all the way to the pool down the street. I think we did. You know, sometimes you do weird shit when you're fucked up. Also, there's a part of me that's like knows some little kid found that on the way to school, and I was like, "How did a pool ball get here?" There's a part of me that wants to like I have a old Swiss Army knife that's like it's not worth much, maybe $10 or whatever. I just keep thinking about just like leaving it out on the stoop or something, someplace for someone walking by to find. 'Cause how cool would it be, like, if you're a kid walking to school and you find a legit Swiss Army knife? I don't know. It's kind of a waste of $10 at the same time, though. Like, I wish I could fucking have one of my nephews be the one that finds it. Like, this is gonna be the art eventually, is figuring out how to, like, do that shit. I wish I could do that with, my brother's kid. Jackson is with his mom, and they live, like, an hour and a half away, and she is crazy town. He is gonna end up so fucked up. And basically, I'm just prepping to do damage control on that kid. And the reason for that is his mom is a narcissistic psychopath with body dysmorphic disorder who jumps from man to man to try to fill a hole in her heart that she can't ever fill. And now she has this son she's dragging behind her in her wake. So he's going to be a fun kid. He's also like wicked smart. He's wicked smart, just like his old man. It's a fun hobby. Like, I would encourage anyone out there to go get a copy of Wayne Goddard's $50 Knife Shop and just go start doing that shit. You'll start ending up with stuff that looks like my early stuff. Because, like, if you really start making your own tools and whatever and aren't that good at making your own tools, your stuff's going to be a little primitive for a bit. But it's a cool way to go. Like, that book was my Bible in high school. I bought it at a gun show for $17, and I could not believe that that book existed. Like, I never got to meet Wayne Goddard before he died, but be sure to get the one in color. It's better. There's a couple other knife making books that are worth having. Go watch my book collection video or shit at the fan book collection, whatever that was. That's all of the books I still own, and there's a bunch of knife making books in there, and every one of them's worth owning. Like there's about a half a dozen of them or so. My library is like a half a dozen to a dozen books on about 100 different topics, whatever. I really tried to like scale it down. I used to have so many fucking books. Like when I was little, I used to watch Beauty and the Beast because I wanted to be Belle and have all the books. So like it's tempting just to have a house full of books, but then you can't walk anywhere. So a few years ago when I was cleaning out shit to try to get more mobile, I was wanting to move to North Dakota and have some fun up there or whatever. I sold most of my books. I sold all but, one bookshelf's worth of them, and I curated what went into that pretty well as to what I was going to keep. And I kept a bunch of stuff I hadn't read, and a bunch of stuff I loved, and a bunch of stuff that is like cool books from when I was a kid that I liked because of before the internet times. I don't know if you remember this, but like in the before the internet times, um, a book about the guns of World War II was a lot more cool than it is today. I have a whole box of railroad spikes. They don't really make really good blades, but they do make interesting projects. I mean, I made one into a hammer. I made one into a it's like a bottle opener thing. That's not what I did with it. It is one process away from being a bottle opener if you wanted to do that with it. But I was making it for a trans man that I met. That what they did was they made floggers for like the BDSM community, and I made them a hand forged handle, but then they never came and got it. I have it somewhere. It's a twisted, railroad spike. None of those even remotely look like railroad spikes now. They're lost in 6,000 pictures on my Instagram. I wish I had the railroad spike Warhammer still. I sold that to a buddy of mine here locally for $75. There's a lot of shit like that where I'm like, that piece of my soul wasn't worth 75 bucks. That's kind of where I'm at with some of my babies. It's like I pour my ass out into some of these things, and the money is nice, especially when it's like $300 for a knife that I didn't spend 40 bucks to make. Like that's a nice profit margin, right? But like when you're in love with the steel and you don't value money, like it makes it very hard to be in the knife business. So that between that COVID and transitioning, I'm taking a break from making knives for a minute. My goal was basically to get to a point to where like I could make 2 or 3 knives a month and support myself basically and just live really cheap. Which I know that doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but like most months, other than stuff to like prepare for the end of the world, I don't hardly spend shit. I buy some weed carts and I go to a couple restaurants. And other than that, I like cook food at home and try to live cheap, cheap, cheap. I do a lot of like dollar cheeseburgers because it keeps me sane, basically. And it's not like, oh, I'm not doing those all the time or like every day or whatever, but when I go out to get lunch or something, I usually do that. And really, a dollar cheeseburger is not the worst thing in the world, I don't think. There's a lot worse things you could eat than that. I usually go to Brahms, and Brahms is way better than like McDonald's or whatever. But I was extra poor today, and I stopped at McDonald's, and I feel dirty. At the same time, I kind of love McDonald's. Like it's nostalgia, really. It's not good food. I don't think it's really food. It's like foam compressed into the shape of a burger. I wouldn't eat it. But at the same time, like the thing that I like at McDonald's is like the dollar cheeseburgers because like the thing that I'm nostalgic about there are chicken nuggets and dollar cheeseburgers. And to be honest, I'm kind of blown out on chicken nuggets because of Dakota. She really liked nuggets, and there for a minute, the only food that we had that we didn't cook at home was probably some McDonald's chicken nuggets. And occasionally we would do some DoorDash and get something crazy. Like we had Andolini's. Andolini's is a Italian pizza place here that like our order from there was $48, and all we got was one pizza and a little thing of mozzarella sticks. So like occasionally we'd do something like that, but other than that, we were just living fucking poor as shit. And like I feel rich now, to be honest. I don't really have a pot to piss in now, but I don't have to spend twice as much money on food as I do now. Like, you know, it costs a lot of money to feed a girlfriend. I just wish I could figure out one that like made her own money. That would be great. But if you really, if you have to choose between hot or makes her own money, I don't know. I think I would just pick hot personally. Uh, Brahms sucks. It depends on which one you go to and what you order. So, what I like to get at Brahms is if you're not getting ice cream and you're getting food, I like the junior cheeseburger. And you can get like a bag of them, like 5 of them for $6 or something. So, like, my grandma and and my uncle do that a lot. Like, we'll go get a bag of burgers and, like, a big thing of fries and just split all that. I think it's, like, $2 for their junior cheeseburger, but it's worth it. It's much, much better than McDonald's. The thing that I don't like about Brahms is that basically hottie that works too much. See, like, my thing is, if you're gonna have hottie McHot pants, and you're gonna put up with hottie McHot pants, you might as well just pay the bitch, because, like, at least then there's some, like, control to the relationship or whatever. Like, if you just let hottie McHot pants, you know, work somewhere else, always be somewhere else, and have her own money, in my experience, either you're going to have to step up your game to a level most men are not willing to do, or she's going to end up with somebody else probably, because women get lonely and bored and have office romances and shit. Work all night, so get every day off. See, that's half of my thing is like I work sometimes, but it's at like random times, and it's I'm kind of my own boss. So as it turns out, there's a lot of people that can't fix shit. That's what I found out basically. It's one of those things that when in conversation, you're like, I fixed my air conditioner and this and that, and then your neighbor's like, you can fix that? Like, depending on what's wrong with it. Like my air conditioner, went out a couple of years ago. I didn't have money to fix it, and it was hot, and I wasn't gonna have money to fix it for like a week. So I learned about HVAC for 2 days until I could fix my own air conditioner. And it had two things wrong with it. It needed fuses in this box outside, and a line that ran under the house had been eaten through by a rat. So I cut that out and spliced the wire back together and rolled it in electrical tape, and called the fucking AC people or whatever, because they still came and ran the new line or whatever. But they didn't do that for a few weeks, and I had air conditioning, so that was nice. That's one of those, like, it's probably not the safest thing in the world to fucking just splice it back together and roll it in electrical tape, but it also wasn't going to live that way for forever. So I don't know. I'm like the redneck handyman now. You know, you ever watch the Black Jeopardy sketches on fucking SNL? There's one where there's Tom Hanks on there, and they're talking about how there's a guy in the hood that can fix everything from your car to your cat to your whatever. Like, he lists off several things, and it's hilarious. That's kind of me. Yeah, I can't fix everything, but the list of shit that I can fix is impressive. Yeah, oh yeah, not approved at all. I'm sure it's probably a fire hazard, I would guess. Then I say a rat ate through that. I kind of think that that fucking line was older than shit and was under strain because it was the heat of the summer and it burnt through that. So it's probably a pretty big fire hazard. But it was also under my house and in a spot where, like, I don't think it could ever catch fire. Thanks to, Tulsa being Tulsa, like, the underside of houses, not all of them are swamps, but a lot of them are swamps. So, I don't know. Electrical fires are different, I guess. I was all impressed with myself that I was able to figure out the air conditioner, though. It only took 2 days because I was sitting here going, "Man, I probably can't fix that thing." For probably a day and a half. It kills me, in any time now just talking to regular people. I get how odd of a thing it is for us to even be able to fix our own anything. Like, that scares the shit out of me. Like, I'm kinda that way with cars, but that's because, to be honest, I really don't care. If it broke and I couldn't pay someone to fix it, I'll figure it out, but it's never been an issue. I know how to use wrenches. It's one of those, it's way, way easier to take it to the place where they have a lift and all that shit. Guy I used to work for, uh, he's in, like, the machine gun and night vision business and shit, and when he, and I were talking, he was just getting into setting up his stuff, and I was talking with him in a, closet in the back of another gun store every day, and I love what he's done because he is the person that listened to me the most about what he should do, and he's, like, going gangbusters, and what I got him to do was buy a European auto parts importer dealership. So, like, as a gun store, it's a small car dealership, but it's a car dealership. And, like, what I was telling him back in the day was, in reality, you can have an FFL on any commercial property. So what can you get cheap that's big? And my thing was car lots. And once you have a car lot, what can you sell on a car lot? Anything. Like, you could sell fucking helicopters there. That's what he's doing now. Like, he's not selling helicopters and shit, but they sell military vehicles and shit like that. It's cool. High-end armament technology in Tulsa. I used to hang out with him, and it's a cool store. When I went through there, he has the actual guns from Terminator in there now. The thing that kills me is he was showing those to me and showing off, and, like, the only thing that I asked him about in the whole store was I wanted to buy Arnold's 1911 long slide from the original Terminator. We were talking about dollars on that one, and basically I could have bought it, but I would have been very poor. It was $25,000, and he didn't want to sell it. That's just what he said he paid for it. So it probably would have been more than that. I think that place is cool because it does kind of what I'm talking about with it, where it, like, it has the auto lift. So, like, you can do your own car maintenance at that point. This was, like, part of the pitch that I had to him was like, think about all the things that come with an auto dealership that you need or want. Like, it's not an auto dealership. It is a castle to run a cavalry unit out of in the end of the world. You know, you put up a fucking 13-foot high fence with concertina wire on it, have a electronic gate in and out of it. You have military vehicles all inside of it, and then you turn the fucking little dealership area into a showroom, which is what he's done. And the dealership he got doesn't have all the room around it, so it's not good for that. But it does have, like, the inside stuff, which is, he did perfect because like what he was wanting to do is a little more low key. I was trying to turn him into like Jim Bob's come here to buy a tank of Oklahoma. Would be cool. If you need anything really, really slick, that is a good place to go. The all the best night vision I ever had came from those guys. Probably where I'm going to go to get a 7, but I'm probably going to go there through a back route because I don't want to talk to my old fucking boss, basically. As it turns out, he's not exactly the biggest fan of the trans thing, so oh well. I still like them. It's one of those like I like anyone that listens to my plan well enough that it actually fucking comes out as good. Because like my thing is, my plan probably isn't what you should do, but there's going to be key things about my plan that you're going to be like, well, we're doing that part of it, and like I get that. I shouldn't be the one in charge. Should be the one like standing behind you, going, hey, do this. It's like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. I need a filter, basically. I am the reasonably good idea fairy. I really love my helmet. I've been fucking with it more and more, and I need to finish it off and get the night vision for it. I'm kind of thinking about trying to fund night vision by selling open Ls. I don't know how many I'm going to be able to whittle out in the next few months or so. I need to like take a decent chunk of money and just buy a bunch of them. 'Cause even if I just did like, 35 bucks, 40 bucks a piece or something like that, that's enough of a profit on them. I think I'd be ahead. So when I had nods, my pistols had the Crimson Trace IR laser grips. I had a Sig 226 Legion, and I had a Beretta M9, and they were both set up with that shit. And I had a Beretta Bobcat with a suppressor that had a just red Crimson Trace on it. They didn't make an IR thing for it. I could never find someone to replace the diode. Then trying to think of what else I had. I set up some Glocks with red dots, but I didn't have night vision when I was doing that. But the idea behind that is at the end of the day, they'd be good for night vision. Um, who made your IR laser on the Glock? Is it Crimson Trace, or because you said that's what you have? Where'd my phone go? Oh, there it is. Yeah, I didn't know they made an IR one for the Glock. I never really looked into it. I'm not anti-Glock or anything. When I was doing that, I know for a fact back then they only made them for guns with grips or whatever. But I hope they make them for a Glock now. If I want them to make. They make a rail laser that they make in red or green. They need to make that in IR because it's only 130 bucks, and you know how many of those they would sell to people just as something to fucking have with a cheap S14 or something like that. Like, you can have white light as the illumination and just have a fucking designator, and like it's not ideal. Better than none. And like it's a hell of a lot cheaper. I would buy one of those. No, did they change the diode on it? What was I gonna do? I do. Crimson Trace IR laser. For rail. It's like really the laser market for IR lasers to go on rails sucks balls. Like basically there's military grade shit that you probably aren't gonna touch. Then there's horrible civilian copies of military grade shit that are expensive. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I'd rather just have a red laser. Like, I know how to get military shit. I just don't want to spend that money, and I damn sure don't want to spend almost as much money on shit that sucks. Railmaster. They really need to make that in a fucking IR laser. They make a light that is a green laser and 1,000 lumen white light. If they just made that with an IR illuminator and a fucking IR laser designator on it, like you could make it like the Surefire vampire heads. Just make it one of those where you can switch it back and forth between white and IR and have an IR laser with it. And this thing from Crimson Trace is $300. And I would trust anything from Crimson Trace to actually fucking work. Yeah, I'm gonna get a PVS 7. That's what I've decided. I Let me go show you. I put up pictures earlier tonight of my old shit. So we still on this screen? Yeah. This is Rommel. It's my dog. He's with my grandma now. He guards grandma, but he's also like ancient. So that's Rommel in thermal. And then those were my dual tubes back in the day. It's a set of Sentinels on a Wilcox mount with Anvis 9 glass and Anvis 9 tubes in them. They're pretty bitchin'. I uh, I would love to have that set of goggles again, but that was like $12,000. And yeah, I don't have that kind of money. It's looking like it's going to be $2,000 to get a decent 7. I'm not really thrilled about that. I might buy one on eBay, but then you gamble on the tube being decent. I have people I could reach out to, but again, I'd rather not. The $2,000 one was from Will's Optics. Will's Optics is good too. Nah, his are normally $2,500, and I got him to knock it down to 2,000 when I said that I showed him the rig I was putting it on, and he was like, "I can do it for 2,000." Says, "I'll find you old beat up shit. You don't care, right?" I'm like, "Nope." It's like, "It can be 2,000." I sent him the picture of my fucking Space Marine rifle on my Chinese chest rig with the helmet with the night vision mount next to it. And he's like, "Oh my." That is the reaction to that, especially because like I'm really gonna have nods. Like, this is the thing I think a lot of people don't get is it's not if, it's when. I'm gonna get a titanium rhino mount next, one of the Naruto's ones. I don't see a reason to get anything other than that, really, especially just to run a 7. I'm trying to think of other shit to bolt to the helmet that would be decent and cool and something useful. Someone suggested a Swiss Army knife, and actually, I found a micro calculator. I'm gonna fucking camouflage spray paint a micro calculator and Velcro tape it to the side of my fucking bump helmet. I know that seems stupid or whatever, but like I think it's kind of funny and it might actually be useful. Oh, I like thermal. It's interesting. I never cared for it as much as night vision because it's so much more expensive, and even if you can get it head mounted, is not really ideal. The thing that I tried was, what are those called? They're little tiny micro thermals. Military uses them. They're fucking expensive as shit, or they were at least. I had two of those on a bridge that High End Arms had that I got to fuck with. That was interesting, but basically, there's no real way to like align the fucking things that you're seeing. Like on a set of dual tubes, there's adjustments on where the tubes are in relation to your eye, and then there's adjustments inside the tube as to how your eye is perceiving it. And this allows you to fit the shit to you, right? With the thermal, they aren't planning on you bolting this shit to your head. It's all just, whatever. So like it didn't work that way. And I really like heads up. Like weapon mounted is cool and whatever, but like for me, I like to go and explore at night, and I don't necessarily have a weapon or whatever, and heads up works for me better for what I like to do. So I think it really depends on who you are and what you're wanting to do. And I'm kind of figuring on having a PVS 7 on that rig and then having the Flux Raider with a red laser on it and have my 1911 with a red laser on it and then putting a red laser on my ARs probably too. And just, if someone wants to fuck with me at night, they get to fight with, early 1990s night vision technology, but, you know, better than nothing. And like the PVS 7 I'm going to run is going to be Gen 4. So at least that's good. Uh, the lasers, I don't think it's worth the squeeze to get any of the IR lasers on the market. If I was going to, I would look at the Steiners probably. I like the Steiner with the big illuminator, probably the best. I think it's the D-ball something or the D-ball D2 or something like that. I need to get either a Swiss card or a little SD classic that's, either camoed or maybe spray painted camo to match and put some Velcro on the other side and put it on the helmet too. Because I think the tweezers and scissors alone, having instant access to it would be handy. Like I'm really trying to put like odd survival items on the bump helmet just to make it look even crazier and just to see what sticks and what doesn't. Because like the lighter I put on there more or less is just to see if it would be a thing that would be handy, and like it is. The spoon is even fucking handy. That's probably the most ridiculous thing I bolted to it yet, so it kind of makes me want to go more. I'm going for like lost in the Vietnamese jungle, but has night vision shaman from the future, space marine. Now I'm going to talk a little bit like Peter Jackson because I think he talks like an interesting English director. I want you to like look at the camera like you're like Colonel Kurtz, lost in the jungle with a banana up your ass. I don't know. I like night vision. The best thing that I've done to that helmet is I put a Petzl headlamp on a piece of Velcro tape and stuck it to the helmet. I know you're saying like that sounds pretty basic, bitch, or what? Like it's legit. It fucking works, and it gives you access to all of the lights on the Petzl, which are many. It's like Mandalorian armor or some shit. I think that's honestly the cool part about modern military gear is it's starting to get to the point where we're a little bit like samurai again. I'm gonna buy a plate carrier thing from AR 500. I think next. I'm looking at they make a AR 500 micro rig thing that's kind of like a heart protector. I'm thinking about just ordering that. And my reasoning is I'm kind of out of shape and I can't carry much armor anyway, and it's better than nothing. And also, like, I'm kind of huge, so 10 by 12, fucking, 9 by 10 does it doesn't really make that big of a difference to me, I guess. It's already kind of a heart protector plate. But the reason I'm looking at that is it's only $135 still, and the other shit's gone up by a lot. Armor's gone up so fucking much. I should have bought that when I was going to, but that was the thing that got fucking okay. So I ordered that little armor set from AR 500 Armor on PayPal, and then like they did it wrong or something, so I canceled it. And then the next day, I lost my whole PayPal account, including all of my money that was in it. Couldn't figure out why, and then found out weeks later that the fucking FBI was trying to get a hold of me. And like this is the shit that they're doing every day with that shit. I don't know really what that has to do with the price of tea in China, but it makes me pissed. Streamlight Sidewinder that mounts to my Paget. Yeah, I like those. I've never had one, but I always played with them at the store, and they looked cool. They reminded me of the angle head military flashlights from back in the day. I've got one of those in the garage. I think the D cell old school thing. I want to get a Streamlight angle head that they make that's like $50, something like that. It's like a CR 123 or double A, one or the other. I don't remember which angle headed flashlight. I think it would be slick to put that in your rig, on your rig, someplace to where it was on there, and you could just click that on and have a light on your chest too, in addition to head or whatever. Like lights are bad, okay, because people aim at them until you're someplace where like that's not an issue anymore and you just need light, but like you lost your helmet because whatever. Like that's kind of why I see that angle head flashlight on your rig as being a useful thing. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Bear Independent I was watching that was doing a thing on chest rigs. He had one of those lights. And I already had that in my cart on Amazon as a thing to buy. I feel like there's a large percentage of the world right now that is like building armies and or doing what I'm doing, where they're like, well, this week we can get a bayonet and 500 rounds ammo. Next week we can get, a chest rig and some food or whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like I have more shit than I really need, probably on some stuff, but other stuff I'm like, I'm buying things that I want for guns that, you know, I don't know. It's probably not the wisest use of my money, but I really think we might be going to war too. So, like, all of my food purchases are now being balanced out by, yeah, we might want to have our rifle squared away, okay? Like a modern M19. Yeah, is that the green angle-headed thing I was talking about? I had those as a kid. That was the flashlight I had as a kid was that green angle-headed D cell battery, if that's the M19. Um, The ones I had were like Nom era, and that was just we had 2 or 3 of those, and those and mag lights, those were the flashlights that I had, period. And the green ones I only had because I bought those at gun shows. Then somewhere in, like, the mid 2000s, like 2000, 2001, 2002, maybe even, like, early 2000s, I guess, I started going to Target a lot and looking through their outdoor section, and in that's where I started buying shit like Leathermans and what's it called? Swiss Army knives and flashlights. They had Streamlights and some brand that was like a cheap Target brand. It was Rock River, and it had nothing to do with Rock River, the gun company. But I bought 2 of those, and from then on, I was rocking a Streamlight of some kind that I don't even have anymore, and those Rock Rivers. Ah, like I like flashlights. It's an underrated thing, especially with guns. Like most of my guns have flashlights attached to them. The black powder revolver doesn't, because like I can't figure out a way to. And my little sidearm thing, the Rhodesian Gambler, I keep calling it, is like it's a car steel frame car pistol. There's no real way to attach a light to it, and it's got a holster where it can't have a light, and it's like a pocket gun. Okay, both ARs have lights. My Flex Raider has a light. My 1911 has a light. The 22 doesn't have one yet, but it's in its plans. It's just super, super low priority because it's a 22. I want to figure out some sort of way to get a 1913 rail on the barrel to mount probably some sort of a light and maybe even a laser on it. I don't know. That would be like pissing money away after everything else is done. I just I don't see me doing that. I think I'm probably just gonna leave that 22 without any of that shit on it. I do debate about putting a red dot on it because the way it's set up, it has M1 Garand style iron sights, and there's still holes to mount another piece of Picatinny rail or something, or a Weaver mount. Either one would work. Uh, on the forward part of the receiver, where the tech sight mounted on the rear part of the receiver, my thought is if you mounted a single rail section there of something, that's just enough that you could put on like a micro dot, and it would be cool to have like a T1 micro sized like Hollow Sun clone thing with M1 Garand iron sights on a 22. Like that is more likely to happen than the lights and shit. Night Prowler. Uh, Sidewinders are cool. Mine broke. Yeah, you should go to my work EDC video on my channel. It shows how I used mine. Okay, I'll check it out if I remember to when this is done. Uh, is MX99 Old Army Light. Okay. Anyway, I like old Army gear. Like some of it is legitimately the best shit you can get, in my opinion, and some of it is not. Like in my bag right now, I have a Ames entrenching tool from like '72 in one of the, you know, what do they call that? The nylon carriers that they never issued. I have one of the rubber ones too, but I'm giving it to my nephew, and I spent $25 on the nylon one because it doesn't hold up as well or whatever, but it's light. Carry a mod light in a holster EDC, $110. So right now my EDC is the Flex Raider. And when it's not that, it's the little car and a holster in my purse. But like it's usually I have a laptop bag that Flex Raider goes in. I just drag that with me. So It's got a Surefire on it that's a X300 Ultra. It's 1,000 lumen. I think it was the better part of $300, but I can't be sure. Uh, I bought that after I'd sold my car after Dakota left me, and well, there for a minute there, I had $28,000 in my bank account, and I had a bit of an alcohol problem, and it was related to the Dakota problem, but like yeah, that cleared itself up eventually. But I don't remember exactly what I spent on that Surefire, but I bought it on Amazon. I want to say it was like 250, 280, somewhere in there like that. I like the X300 because I've used basically every pistol light on the market, and the X300 is the one that I keep buying. The controls on the Streamlights, I just think are inferior, basically. And like, I think you should pick one of those lights and go with it. And I think the Streamlight is the superior one. As far as like the newfangled shit goes, I don't know about O lights and mod lights and whatever. I don't pay attention to any of that because it's not made by Surefire usually. I put an Enforce on this AR, and that's an experiment. I've owned an Enforce before. I liked it. I couldn't figure out what I was going to do with it really, and I gave it to my mother because it had a dragonfly on it because it was a Travis Haley one. My mom likes dragonflies. I got it for 20 bucks. I don't know what the Haley one goes for, but it's a hell of a lot more expensive than $20. I should have hung on to that because I'm using the front sight post rings now, and that's the only light you can do that with. And as a result, I'm kind of playing with it. I like this light. I'm usually a surefire or nothing kind of person, and the only exception to that is Streamlight. And Streamlight occasionally hits one out of the park. So like I trust Streamlight for like pocket lights and stuff usually. They're cheaper, they're good, they're just as good in my opinion. Weapon lights I go Surefire, and then occasionally on the Streamlight stuff like my 1911 light Matt actually gave me. Uh Made me feel bad about that shit now. Anyway, I like that thing. And like if there's gonna be a light company that I was gonna buy from other than Surefire, it would be Streamlight. And I guess now Enforce, but I don't know that much about Enforce other than the couple of lights that I've had from them that I've been playing with. My main conclusion that made me decide to try this again with the Enforce was there's so many people I know that have put these on their guns several years ago, and they're still on their guns today, which means that like either they never shoot any of them, which I doubt, or it works. I want to try it. Plus, I think it gives this thing a fucking like sci-fi look like no other, man. Like between it and the Manta Tac Wrap, there's some what kind of gun is that going on with it? And the KE arms lower adds to that too. Can't wait to have a bayonet on it. I need to replace the barrel and bolt carrier group and trigger and uh, buffer eventually. I'm kind of wanting to basically build a really nice custom rifle inside of this Bear Creek upper. That's cool. He's talking about his mod light. Most of my weapons lights are usually those Surefire G2X not tacticals. It's I buy the LE. You should probably buy the tactical. The tactical is just bright and bright only. The ones I buy, I accidentally bought the LE, which is bright, and then the next one goes to low. And because I bought that on the first one by accident and I liked it, I've stuck with it. And now all the ones I buy are that way. And because all the ones I buy are that way, I think it's not that big of a deal because I trained to use that light. and it's nice to have a high and a low. But at the same time, I get the idea that, like, that she'll get you killed in the streets, maybe. It's what I choose to do. My favorite rifle light ever was the Surefire M600 with the top rail mounted pressure pad that hooks onto the rail and has a constant on button. Like, let's go look at that. I think I posted one of those just the other day. Somewhere in here. Yeah, here it is. So this mount here, where it has the controls over the Manta, and then I mounted the light on the bottom because I liked like the MP5 light look, and this has kind of that like MP5 SD with the ribs on this mixed with like it has a light down here. Like I dig it. I know it doesn't look anything like an MP5 or whatever. I'm making references or whatever, but it's not the same. Yeah. That particular gun Blazer has right now, and he's going to be selling it, I believe. I'm going to try to convince him to put that on Gunbroker and let me share the listing because, like, it's a good gun. It's carbon fiber Troy Industries rail, Spike Industries, sorry, not Spike, Spike's Tactical upper and lower, Bolt Carrier Group. I don't remember where it was from, but it was also, I think it was Spike's. Barrels BCM, Surefire muzzle device, LWRC stock kit, ALG trigger in it, if I remember right. The ACT, Knights Armament sights. It's a really nice gun. It doesn't have the Manta tack wrap on it anymore, and it doesn't have the Surefire with it anymore. Otherwise, I think the gun is pretty much just like that without the optic. Like I took all of the extras off, before I sold it to him. That's one of my favorite rifles I've ever built. I would love to buy that back, but he wants too much in my. It's not too much for it. It's a really good deal on it. It's less than what you guys would pay at an auction probably. But I I'm going to be spending $2,000 on fucking night vision in the next year sometime probably. I can't also spend $2,000 on that more than likely. I would love to though. It's one of those. I wonder if he might trade me. Although I've kind of like painted my guns to the point that like no one else would buy them. I really wasn't planning on trading. I also like the KE arms lowers, to be honest. I had someone ask if I had a solid rifle, and it's a friend of mine. It's his name. You can look him up. Pretty good luck with Klaus. What's Klaus? Liberty Nexus. He says that my lower on the Space Marine Blaster is just AIDS. You know you love it. I think the Wolverines part of it is legitimately cool. I think some of my other shit on there is girly to the point of being cringe, apparently. And like, there's a little bit of that. Like, I, I love my guns. My paint jobs make sense to me. My other AR, let's go look at that, is a Rhodesian paint job kind of a thing. It doesn't need to make sense to anyone. It's kind of a hunting rifle. Big titty bitch. Here you go. So the Rhodesian one is like the hunting rifle down here. It's got some Nom vibes to it, and it's kind of an A2, not clone, but like the front end of it is inspired by the M16A2. Then the fucking moon rifle there is just like, I don't know. I wanted it to look like you were out there in fucking space Vietnam, tripping hardcore on weaponized hallucinogens. I like to say that all of my guns are from space Vietnam. So it's like there's a theme, really. Like even that little car is like it's part of the thing. It's a little officer's pistol. It has a flap holster. You know, the black powder revolver is the fucking like, you know, Corporal Hicks, instead of bringing his shotgun, decided to bring the BBC revolver. Mm. Oh wow! No wonder this guy doesn't like my guns. He has a very, very high-end office that it looks like he never does anything in. I'm gonna send him. Fuck. Let's. I have a picture somewhere of my fucking like samurai armor stand. I'm gonna send him that. Sorry, you guys, aren't getting to hear much. Uh, I'm looking for samurai armor stands. I'll have to go back and find that and fucking screen cap and shit. Jesus. It's a cool picture. What do you guys think of my guns? Are they fucking like horror shows? The Flux Raider, I think, legitimately made some people cry. Um, Samurai armor stand. There it is. Oh, where is that? I'll go show you guys that too. Might as well. Uh, Somewhere in here. There we go. Samurai armor stand. Oh, it's a flashlight company. I sent the dude a, picture of my bed covered with. During COVID, I assembled pretty much all the stuff to do like a sniper mission and put it on a bed. I sent him that picture and sent him the samurai armor stand in response to his like like manicured office O'Doom with like a plate carrier and a helmet in the corner. It's funny. Different strokes for different folks. Oh, let's talk about why Ray doesn't value the same shit as other people. I have gone in my life from literally not having a pot to piss in, eating macaroni and cheese and hot dogs with my mom when I was like 2 or 3, like on the street, to living in a house that cost $1 million to where I am now. I don't really care. The most fun I ever had was now, to be honest. I like what I do now. Maybe that's, not everybody, but not everybody's fucking done the roller coaster ride that I have in my life. That was a crazy house to live in. It had a pool table, it had a game room, had a guest bedroom, it had a John Deere room, it had a three-car garage, it had a office that we turned into a bedroom for my great grandmother, and it was right at the front of the house, and like she would see me coming and going and shit. It was dope. Like after living in basically poverty for most of my entire life, when I went to college was then, and things lined up to where I got to enjoy the fucking nice ass house basically while I was going to college, and that was nice because my mom went to medical school while I was in like second grade. It's when she started back to undergrad. So she didn't even get into medical school until I was in like junior high, and then you know she was like in school my entire life basically. And it was nice to get to enjoy the doctor dollars at least for a minute. But after getting a taste of that and seeing how fucking miserable she was, and like, I don't know, I watched a lot of the wrong documentaries in the wrong order. I recommend that you go watch the documentary on John Milius, followed by the documentary on The Secret, by the documentary on minimalism. That was the chain that I watched those in. Oh, and you should add getting shot in the ass. You should definitely get shot in the ass because it gives you perspective on life. My life's like a Forrest Gump movie, I swear to God. I'm telling him I like my room better. I really do though. Like that's a dope ass fucking thing. That's my pirate flag and the fucking like riot shield I made. A poster of a Native American art thing uh, from college. And that's my makeup case. That the helmet stand is like a hat stand with a fucking what's that called? Gas mask on it with some Ray Bans on it with the helmet set on it. And there's usually Peltors on it, but I don't think there is in that picture. I don't know. I can't see that well. Then in front of the makeup case that it's all sitting on is the fucking rig and the rifle. And it's got the shemagh wrapped around the fucking helmet stand to kind of cover that up. Let's go see what other interesting pictures I have. So this is a friend of mine. We briefly dated when they thought they might be a girl. These are my bitchin' shoes. I can actually walk in these. I'm so fucking tall in those. Like it's insane. Basketball players are below me. The year is 2034, and the last functional vaginas are left on men. This is the story of the Sperminator. This thing just came out dope. I had made this and threw it in the scrap box because the handle didn't come out like at all. Like this was the first real handle I'd ever done. I was learning, but I cut some grooves on the handle with a file and did a mustard patina on it, and it's fucking dope. This is what mustard does to steel. Here's the before and after. Uh, See, this is just cool to me. I made all of these, and I made all of them like the one in the middle is the second knife I ever made. The one on the left is the first knife I ever made with a handle that wasn't made of rope. And then the one on the right I made in college. I think it's cool that it looks like World War II, Vietnam, and like Iraq or some shit. Welcome to LV426. This here is your standard bug hunt, then calling us Poontang and back to killing fanged teddy bears in space Vietnam. And like HK vibes are strong. And here comes the part that made people cry. Hey, I literally cut it off of it and turned it into like a butt cap thing that holds batteries. I really just wanted to play with it. I'm gonna buy new rails and a brace and a stock. I'm gonna buy all the shit to go with this and the rail sections. But that's how you get the Cucks Raider. It's bitchin'. Cucks Raider. I think that actually pissed off Flux Defense. And if it did, good. I'm glad it did. If you can be pissed off by the word cucks, I took the little dick of the Flux Raider and I made it a part of my prayer beads. My friend Blazer said, uh, "That'll teach all those other braces." I really don't have anything against braces. I also took this picture. I called this gun Icarus. It's just amazing. Some things you just do because you have to, really. Isn't that just a beautiful picture? Like, I'm gonna stop on that one. It's been the 2 hours of this. I called this Icarus because it flies too close to the NFA. Mm. That is a ALG 6-second mount with an aimpoint T1 and a Surefire. I want to say, yeah, that's an X400V, and well, it's got that thing on the end to catch oil, and then it's got the pistol brace adapter thing from Indo Tactical, and it's got a law folder on that too, so you can even fold that. It was a ridiculous monstrosity. I much prefer the Flux Raider. Openels. This is what I want to do to this thing. I'm going to get it threaded and put this on it. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it'll make it look a little more sci-fi, and the holster it's in will fit it. So, like, why not? It's going to cost some money to get that threaded. That's, long-term goal. But, well, I'm going to call this here. Thank you guys for watching. I don't really know what this was about. We kind of wandered all over, but I think we had a fun time. Night Prowler, as always. Zeus, it's nice to meet you. Apparently, we have similar interest in metalworking, at least. I'll see you guys later.